What an incredible panel. It's great privilege to have Andy Markus on stage in a fireside chat with us. Andy's leading the data and analytics initiatives at AT&T, but he has incredible experience building data-rich cultures in his career over time and Warner and over the course of the many years. He's one of my favorite CDAOs in the world, and I think I speak to several a week even, and I think I'd love to learn, have the audience and the community experience the way the world from Andy's perspective, both for within AT&T, but also globally, how the role of data science is transforming. So it's a great pleasure. Welcome, Andy, to the Fireside.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I always love a chance to sit down and talk with you, Sri. It's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. We wouldn't be here without the journey together. You saw the previous panel talking almost every phase of the data culture transformation. And you talk about that in your more recent article that you published. And what are the big problems in bringing that to a new organization and as well as the rest of the world?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, first of all, Mark and team did a fantastic job, really, explaining and articulating that entire life cycle. But it's taken a while to bring that together, right? And that's just a piece of what we're doing, from a data and AI perspective at AT&T. And we always say, we have three core things, three big rocks that we're delivering for the company. Or three hats that we wear. And the first one, and that's why we're here, is to deliver value to the business, right? That's the whole reason we're being here. We love tech, I love it to death, but we're here to deliver value, meaningful value to the business. We're doing that, and I'll talk more about that in a second. The second is to really make data and AI first-class assets of the company, right? And, it's a big company. You heard the stories that Mark and team talked about. How do we make sure that we have the skills and competency and the data acumen across the company? That takes focus, right? So we're working across our little part to ensure AT&T really leverages and optimizes data and AI. And we do it through making sure that we have the right target architecture, that everybody is communicating in the same way, that we have single sources of truth, that we have data reuse, that our data is findable and searchable, that we can get to it, with the security and privacy standards that are so important at AT&T. And then that third hat is to modernize, our data and AI ecosystem. And I think what Mark and team showed you is a great example of how that modernization is happening. Because this is not where we were 2 years ago. We had pieces and parts, but it's really coming together. This vision is happening, and these guys that you saw on this panel, they're making it happen. But it's a big job, right? I mean, we are moving AT&T's core data and AI infrastructure into a cloud-first, cloud-native, elastic environment, and that's creating so much flexibility and so much power for the company. It's a big task. I mean, AT&T doesn't have a small data footprint, as you know. I would say we're probably in the bottom of the 6th inning in a 9-inning game. We put some nice runs on the board, but now we're calling in the closers, and I've got some good closers to make sure we finish this game. So, we have a ways to go, but we've made great progress. Now, going back to that first thing, delivering value to the business. You heard Mark say that we have, well over 600 models in production across the company. And there are things I can say and things I can't say, but I can say that we are using AI and ML to deliver over $2.5 billion of value to AT&T right now. And that's growing every year. It's not just our team. It's working across the business. And we do that, and it drives value to the company, but it also drives value to our customers, right? Because ultimately, our customers, are the ones that benefit from this. In that, it's everything that you would think that you would do from a telecom. right? From how we optimize our field and care, whether it be the dispatch, whether it be customer care. And again, this is not just our team, right? This is AT&T. We're helping, we say that we're the North Star of making sure that we have data and AI excellence across the company. And so we're helping others. But it's everything from care and field, from how we plan and optimize the network. We have some really fantastic breakthroughs just recently of how hey, building the network's not cheap, right? It's a pretty intensive capital investment. If we build here or here, where do we maximize the return on the investment? That's a data and AI problem. We're solving it that way now. And we're using it, across both the build out of fiber and the build out of wireless. So it's really making a change. And that's just, scratching the surface there. We run the back part of the network or the company off of it, whether you heard Prince talk about the fraud work that we do, some incredible work there. We can't go into details, but we have 28, AI and ML models that are really, driving, a difference there. No surprise to anyone, the attacks from a fraud perspective continue to grow, but we continue to see, very safe and stable rates, so that protects our customers. We use it from the supply chain on how we manage the supply chain part of our business. And then how we attract and keep our customers, right? We want to make sure our customers have a very stable and, rewarding experience. And we use AI and ML to really drive that process. So,
that's amazing.
Yeah, those are the three hats.
No,
my hat's not as nice as yours. I need this Sri hat.
That's incredible. You packed a lot in that. Obviously, in some of these, whether it's SIM card swap or fraud prevention from iPhones, you're dealing with groups of individuals that have come together to kind of use data to attack, right? So using AI to defend is a powerful mechanism. And I've seen every one of the talking points in the previous talk have a story behind. When you talk about assets, I'm a bit, when I was mentioning about AT&T to someone, I said AT&T is where C languages took birth, right? Bell Labs, R started here. It's a foundry of innovation over the generations for us. Shannon was information theory was at AT&T. So how do you continue to kindle that innovative spirit? And we see some of that on stage, display. The culture of innovation at AT&T can be transmitted for the whole world.
Yeah, it's a great point. And it's, we do try to balance. Again, our goal is to deliver value for the business, but we also want to continue to innovate. I don't know if everyone knows, AT&T actually ranks number 6 all time on AI patents that have been created. And, we continue to stay at that current pace, maybe even accelerate it. So we're trying to innovate. And I think what you saw on the board is examples of that. We continue to try to push the maturity of where we are, with data and AI. And I think we're making great progress. We have really great momentum. I love the model that you guys have. You took the Gartner AI maturity model and you kind of customized it for how you manage your customers and prospects. And we tried to grade ourselves on that model. And the model, for those that haven't seen it, it's a really interesting model that takes people, process, and technology. And it, takes 5 scales of AI maturity and tries to break down, what does it mean at this scale or this stage versus this stage. And I look at where we are in people, process, and technology. And I see from a people standpoint, on your scale and the Gartner scale, you go from, on the low end, you have a few people that are doing some data science. On the high end, you've got people doing data science across the firm. Well, hey, I can check that box, right? We have people both in our teams and mobilized across the business to do, great data science work across the business. On the process side, right? Starts out where you have a few POCs and maybe a few AI models in production to where, you have a consistent standardized process for creating AI across the enterprise. I think you just saw, right? Where we are, right? We have that consistent standardized process with best-in-class tools across the process. It encompasses everything, as Mark said and the team said, from finding to getting data, which is hard at the scale of AT&T, to using the great functionality that we have from H2O to train and develop our models, to deploying our models, to monitoring our models. But most importantly, maybe not most, but definitely importantly, hey, I'm the CDO, I'll say it. Maybe a very important thing is governing that, right? Ensuring that not only are we building robust solutions, but those robust solutions are responsible and ethical, right? And that's super important. And so again, you think about the maturity curve, check that box, right, on where we are from a process perspective. Technology. Again, we all love the Wild West, right? We all have our little special things that we like to do. On the low end of that scale, right, it's the Wild West. Everybody's doing their own thing. On the more mature side of that scale, again, now you have best-in-class tools that everybody uses. You have mature processes, like we talked about, documenting your AI, like in ML Flow. Making sure that we have, our models, unbiased and responsible. Again, our vision, as Mark and team showed you, is to make that low code, no code, right? We're not there yet, right? That circle works for what I call the code warriors at AT&T, the true data scientist. And we're, though slowly, as Alan told you, slowly bringing that citizen data science, scientist community into the fold, and we're making them productive, with these tools. So, as we think about that maturity model, we're not in it for just the technology, but our goal is to reimagine AT&T, where data and AI are truly embedded into the core fabric of what we do. Right? It's not an afterthought. It's not something we do after something's completed. It's something our business leaders take into account as they're executing their jobs, right? And so as we embed that into the fabric, data and AI, whether it's our team, whether it's other teams across the company, are delivering that value on an everyday, every hour basis. So a long-winded way to answer your question, but that's how we're trying to innovate, but also deliver value to the business.
No, that's a phenomenal lot of points you touched there. How's that chemistry? Obviously we rank AT&T one of the foremost in maturity for AI. And a part of that comes from the proximity, almost L1, L2-like proximity to business that data and AI have at this organization. Can you give us a little bit more into how that chemistry emerged and how the data is powering business decisions and strategy and optimizations and across different scenarios?
Yeah, a couple of things. And you tell me if I'm not going where you want to go, but AT&T is now a company focused on connectivity. Right, so we know we have to reimagine who we are too. Right, we need to be the best connectivity provider, bar none. Right, that's our goal. Right, is to deliver that, to our customers, to our stakeholders. And as we look at that connectivity play, think about the data that comes across our network. I think it's 530 petabytes a day. It's an enormous amount of data, and think about the value of that data to drive benefits again to our customers and to our business. And so our leaders across the company see that. They see that to achieve the goal that we have at AT&T to be that best connectivity provider, bar none, that we have to reimagine who we are. We have to embrace a new change. We have to not, just...
It's like Alice in Wonderland, isn't it?
Yeah, rest on the status quo. So when we think about that, and John Stankey does an amazing job of articulating this, he has a kind of a criteria for characteristics that he wants the leaders of the company to embrace. And one of them is called Act Boldly. And in Act Boldly, it's to challenge the status quo. Right? Don't be satisfied with how we've always done things. And then another core component of that is to use data to drive your decision process. So that's a challenge that our CEO has initiated for all leaders across the company. And so we're helping the company, achieve that challenge.
One of the characteristics of great data organizations is they're very close to their CEOs or the strategy where the decisions are being made, the future. How often do you connect with John?
So, we report into Jeremy Legg, who's the CTO, and Jeremy reports into John. So we're routinely working with Jeremy, working with John. We spent a lot of time this year, actually, explaining or kind of running John through the state of AI at AT&T and the industry, and also Jeff McElfresh, our COO. So, they're very in tune with what's happening. They understand how to apply it, and they're really, asking their teams across the business to say, again, let's reimagine this company and let's use automation and data to drive great things.
I think the results are showing that ability to drive the entire organization or bring the entire organization together, mass times velocity. I bring all of them, and the momentum just is incredible to see. Every time I meet Mark and team and Andy, I get a new stat on how much that week a model unlocked in terms of value. Real, sometimes in dollars and cents, sometimes in percentage points, whether it's churn prevention or fraud prevention or acquiring new customers, 5G rollout, bandwidth. Really, very, very inspiring. Every conversation we have, you talk about business value.
Yeah, I mean that's why we're here, right? Is to drive that value, and the value that we talked about, $2.5 billion of value to the company. I think we're scratching the surface, right? I mean, we've hit the low-hanging fruit, but I think as we double down and democratize, this great functionality and grow our ability to create AI, as Mark and Prince and team said, by 5x over the next 3 years, we're going to see that value continue to increase. I create a challenge for our team. I mean, we shouldn't rest on that great number. I think it should actually double. In a not too distant future. I'm not going to set a hard deadline, Mark, but I think it should double. I mean, we have so many other areas that we can help with, and that our counterparts in the business can help drive value with data and AI. So it's a constant thing. And then the other thing that I think the team showed in that circle of the process, to your point, it's not only driving value to solve business problems, we're able to do it faster. Right? The feature store. Think about, Mike Berry talked about how it created a more predictive situation, right? Because you're bringing data that the algorithm didn't have access to in the past. But the time, like he talked about doing this in a day or a few hours. This you go back, a few years ago, this was weeks or months, right? When we started, we did different kind of POCs, and these POCs of using the technologies that we're using today were shaving things. And we heard people across the company say, this took me a month to do. This took me 6 weeks to do. We're able to do it in a week. Now we're able to do it in days. Now we're able to do it in hours. So that's a game changer. Hey, the engine is revving, and we're not letting off the gas.
That's I remember you mentioning during one of our catch-ups, you're democratizing something very sophisticated. AI is just on that, machine learning and algorithms that are really hard to use, difficult to use. You now democratize that in a way that the AI as a service within the organization is available at the fingertips of the business. That can lead to quantum transformation for companies. So, question for how that came about, right? Sort of the ability to kind of start with the data, make the pipelines rich, and then getting the data maturity. I remember 2014, 15, we were working with AT&T, and then from there to now, it's quite a transformation. Almost every one of our technologies were first tried or tested in your labs, and eventually they got flourished. Can you talk about a little bit of how that cultural, both within the organization and across the organizations, how did you bring about that change?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect storm in a good way of a few things. I would say, the need to change. We know, right? AT&T, new connectivity company, we need to change. A culture of change, right? Which is brought, from, our CEO to our CTO on down, right? It's time to change. Don't, just rest on your laurels. To technology, and it's think about how it all comes together. And I'll talk about like the governance part or the reuse part at AT&T. Big company, not too long ago, the way to put data in the hands of people across the business, I need to do this, I have a project, I need a copy of your data. Well, you can't go into my production environment, right? Because you could take this system down. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut a copy of this data. I can't do it real time, but I'll get a copy of it, and I'll send it to you for your project, right? That was how we democratized data across the company, because that's what the technology allowed. Now, the technology allows us to democratize it where there is a single source of truth. That source is propagated throughout the company. The company uses it. Changes to that, that source, immediately propagate out, whether it's updates to data or updates to structure. And we're no longer copying data, out and out across the enterprise. And the problem, of course, we know when you copy data, once you start to create your own version, your own vision, now you have conflicting results. Okay, so we've eliminated that. Well, I'm not going to say totally, but we have greatly eliminated that across the company, so that our goal is to have these sources of truth that really, drive the business, and not to have copies and copies and copies of data floating around the company. So we've made great progress.
You hit the nail on the head. A lot of my customers are struggling with the data copies, and which is the real copy, and then the pipelines that come out of them.
Yeah. Who owns the master, right? Now we know that. And I think it is that combination of what we have to do as a company, the culture that the executives are embracing, and the technology now allows us to do it.
Machine learning brings an enormous amount of technical debt, because every table is producing code. So suddenly you have the jungle of machine learning pipelines and data pipelines. Being able to have a very, we saw the orchestration, Watchtower, all the way SIFT, and then eventually feature store. How are we creating more collaboration within the organization, as well as the go-to-market with potentially your customers, either in the public sector or in private?
Yeah, I think what starts with consistent architecture. You can't, it's almost like, can we speak the same language, right? It's really hard to work if we're all speaking different languages. So now we have a common architecture. And then, as the panel just showed, right, you have that collective, full, cycle ecosystem that takes care of all parts of the AI lifecycle. And now people are plugging in to each part. That doesn't mean every part of the company needs the full life cycle, but they're plugging into the piece that they need, and they're using that to drive the business. And then they're taking that, to the end state, whether that end state is, helping us to manage churn better, whether the end state is to drive value to our business customers, but they're using that data that we pump through that's now, action ready, right, feature ready, and driving actions through that process.
I think one of the things that is easy to take for granted is AT&T has more data than, right, sort of even Google or Apple have only one side of half of the ecosystem. You see it all, the whole power of data, right? Sort of. You touched on it on your second hat, how to use data and AI as assets, right, sort of digital assets, while preserving privacy, while still being very kind of focused on the individual's ability to control their access. How unpack a little on the digital asset? We think that asset-light businesses, right now, most of our customers in manufacturing or retail, they are very low margins, very asset-heavy, capital-heavy. Asset-light businesses is kind of where the future is, and it'd be useful to see if you unpack the second piece of your three big rocks a little bit more.
Yeah. So if I understood the question right, like how do we really protect the customer data while driving value to the business? Customer privacy is at the forefront of everything we do. Like that's where we all start. And so we have very clear and transparent ways that we use customers' data our customers' data, and we use it to drive value for the customer, right? And so that's the mentality that we all have as we use that to drive value for the business. But we're doing things, for, like, we didn't talk about this on some of the applications, but one of the biggest complaints our customers have as being a customer of AT&T is robocalling. Right? It's no matter what survey we do, it's number one or number two on any list. Right? I don't think anybody here likes robocalls. If you do, raise your hand. We can give you plenty. So we, with our partners in the global fraud management organization, have, using data and AI, we're now labeling 1 billion calls a month as potential nuisance, and we're blocking 600,000 calls on a monthly basis and not letting those get through to our customers. And over the course of this program, again, working with our partners, we've blocked well over 10 billion calls. And I hope what you see now, when we do our next survey, you see the importance of robocalling for our customers drop in that survey. Not because they like it more, right? Nobody likes it more, because it's less of a problem. So again, that's how we're trying to use data and AI to drive value for our customers.
It's a great example. Your own journey, I see the rise of data science. Scientists, when we started in 2011, data scientist was considered a very exciting role. And one of they use the word the sexiest job of the decade. Or even
yeah, finally got some street cred in my own house when that article came out. So.
But I think we actually saw a world where scientists are the most soft-spoken people in the world. In fact, the elements of statistical learning, there's a nice quote in the beginning preface which says, data scientists make us, and statisticians make us see the world in different ways, not being the loudest voice in the room. From there to the rise of data scientists to be center to the organizations and the groups, to even leaders driving change, both within the organizations and even bringing new business in some places with AI as service. Talk about that alongside your own journey, and for aspiring data scientists in the online and in the audience, it'd be incredibly, and for me as well.
Yeah, I think it truly always starts with solving a business problem, right? We have an incredible toolbox as data scientists, as data experts, but the real game changer is working with the business leaders, the people that are in the trenches, that have the responsibility of running the business, to understand their problems and to help them think about a new way to solve that problem using data and AI. That's, to me, the magic bullet, right? Is that, we're not doing it for the sake of technology. We're doing this to drive business value. And, that's always been the approach I've had, is to take, my stats background, my computer science background, to solve business problems. And it's, we've done it everywhere. And that's, with our team, Mark and his whole team, that's the mindset that we have, right? Mark is an amazing magician at coming up with ideas to solving business problems. And that's what we do, right? So we have a great toolbox. We have a great, set of assets that we can bring to the table, but our goal is to come to the table with those business partners and help them solve problems together. And we say data science is a team sport. It truly is a team sport, meaning we're there locked arms together with our business partner, and we all get credit together for solving that. So that's been, super successful.
That tight braiding between business, data, and AI is super important, and I've seen that embodied. Folks in the audience recognize that.
And I also think it's like the era we work in today. If you go back years ago, data scientists, statisticians were backroom jobs, right? The business people worked here. They would call out to the data science community when they needed something. But now the business professionals, understand the application. They understand the technology to some extent. You could hear our conversations with John Stanky and Jeremy Legg. They understand what we're doing, so that the conversations are more connected, right? And I think that's the throughout probably all of our companies that are represented here, we have leaders now that understand the technology that even came out of the technology side of the business that, can really have that conversation. So that's changed a lot over time. That was not that way, as we all know, 10 to 20 years ago.
Yeah, I was making the comment to one of our heated discussions that the CDA or the CDOs and the data scientists will be pretty much at the kind of the top 10 folks on the planet who can make a difference. And in my view, they've already made a difference. We would otherwise be speaking German, right? We're speaking English because the scientists decided to move to the United States, right, back in World War II. I think it's just going to see more and more of that, kind of not less of that across all businesses. I liked your other comment you made, code warriors. Data scientists are, in some sense, have incredible power at their hands to bring change. And I think one of the things that I really appreciated was when Mark walked into my office and said, Sri, what can we do? We have an AI for Good initiative. What can we do together? And out came the Hurricane Project. It would be nice to see your perspective on how data science can be transformative for the world as well.
I think there's so much potential. I mean, hey, we talked about robocalling, right? That's AI for good. But kind of more universal. I think climate is a huge example, right? I mean, like the Hurricane Project, AT&T has access to incredible climate data. We use it to build our network. When you operate FirstNet, right, a network that has to be up all the time for first responders, you have to ensure its resiliency in terms of flooding or wind damage. It has to be up all the time. So we have great data and great predictive algorithms to predict things like drought, like wildfires, like flooding, both coastal and inland flooding, and we make that data available to the public. Right? So AI for Good, we make both the data and the predictions available, and we know many, agencies like FEMA are using that data. We know many state and local agencies are using that data to help plan their infrastructures. So I think that's a great example of AI for Good.
Absolutely, and also how first responders can react to changes that are acute. No, that's an incredible note. I know we have a few AI for Good conversations later rest of the day. And Dan will be following us on talking about how to protect wildlife and biodiversity with AI.
Oh, great.
So it'll be quite fascinating.
Look forward to hearing that.
Yeah. Incredibly insightful every time we catch up. It's a pleasure. I know a lot of my community, H2O community, aspires to actually try and walk a mile in your shoes to see how the world from a very business-centric view of science. And it's actually very easy to almost forget that your journey started from the statistical background to kind of build a world that is now data and AI heavy. What an incredible artifact it's a living system. It's growing every day, the data science community inside AT&T. And we derive exquisite pleasure partnering with you, co-creating. I think we'll be talking about the co-creation later today. Any final words you want to say to the community? No,
I'll just add to that. I mean, it takes an incredible team. You guys saw part of the team that just came here and talked about what they're doing. Incredibly talented team, and it takes incredible partners like H2O. Like that's the realization of what we're doing here. I think it's talented people as part of this team and this AT&T team, and just fantastic partners that are bringing technology and functionality that we didn't have in the past. Like, at least this is the game changer, right? We're just we're riding the wave, right? That's all we're doing. We're just good surfers. So thanks, Sri.
In perfect H2O parlance.
Yeah.
Let's surf more AI today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Sri. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.